Welcome to Iraqi Dinar News, where you receive real and authentic updates about the Iraqi dinar. If you want to stay informed with moment-by-moment developments, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. In today's update, we're taking a careful and professional look at a statement that has been circulating among Iraqi dinar watchers. The suggestion that if a full government formation is completed quickly, there could be a very good chance of an exchange rate change within the month of April. The message also emphasizes that Iraq may be extremely close to the end of this ride, a phrase that understandably captures attention, especially among long-term followers of the Iraqi dinar story. Now, as always, our role here is to step back from emotionally charged interpretations and examine what this type of statement realistically means within the broader context of Iraq's economic structure, monetary policy, and political environment. Because while such claims may sound encouraging on the surface, the actual mechanisms behind exchange rate movements are far more complex and require a grounded, fact-based perspective. Let's begin by addressing the key condition mentioned in the statement: full government formation. In Iraq, political stability plays a significant role in economic decision-making. A fully formed government, meaning all key ministries are appointed, policies are aligned, and leadership is functioning cohesively, does create a more stable environment for economic reforms. This includes fiscal planning, budget execution, and coordination with the central bank. However, it's important to understand that government formation alone does not automatically trigger a currency revaluation or exchange rate adjustment. The Central Bank of Iraq operates with a degree of independence, and its primary focus is on maintaining price stability, controlling inflation, managing foreign reserves, and ensuring confidence in the financial system. Any decision to adjust the exchange rate would need to align with these core objectives, not simply political milestones. So while a completed government structure can be a positive signal, it is only one piece of a much larger puzzle. Now let's examine the idea of a possible rate change this month of April. Exchange rate policy in Iraq has historically been cautious and deliberate. The most recent significant adjustment occurred in late 2020, when the Iraqi dinar was devalued to address fiscal pressures caused by declining oil revenues and budget deficits. That move was part of a broader economic reform strategy, not a sudden or speculative decision. For a rate increase or appreciation to occur, several economic conditions would typically need to be met. These include strong and stable foreign currency reserves, consistent oil revenue inflows, controlled inflation, reduced reliance on imports, and increased confidence in the domestic banking system. Additionally, structural reforms aimed at diversifying the economy beyond oil would strengthen the case for any upward adjustment. At present, Iraq's economy continues to show mixed signals. On one hand, higher global oil prices in recent periods have improved government revenues, which is a positive factor. On the other hand, challenges remain, including public sector dependency, unemployment concerns, infrastructure gaps, and the need for continued financial sector reform. Because of this, any suggestion that a rate change is imminent within a specific short time frame should be approached with caution. Monetary policy decisions are not typically tied to speculative timelines or external expectations. They are based on measurable economic indicators and long-term stability goals. The phrase "we're extremely close to the end of this ride" is another point worth unpacking. This type of language often reflects sentiment rather than concrete policy direction. For many investors and observers, the Iraqi dinar journey has indeed been long, with years of anticipation surrounding potential reforms or value adjustments. However, from an economic standpoint, there is no defined endpoint, in the way this phrase suggests. Currencies evolve over time, based on economic performance, policy decisions, and global market conditions. Iraq is still in a phase of gradual development and reform. While progress has been made, particularly in areas like digital payments, banking modernization, and anti-corruption measures, the process is ongoing rather than nearing a sudden conclusion. In the short term, what could we realistically expect if a full government is formed promptly? The most immediate impact would likely be improved investor confidence, smoother budget implementation, and potentially stronger coordination between fiscal and monetary authorities. These factors could support exchange rate stability and reduce volatility in the parallel market. However, stability should not be confused with rapid appreciation. In fact, central banks often prioritize avoiding sudden fluctuations, as these can create economic disruptions. A stable and predictable currency environment is generally seen as more beneficial for long-term growth than sharp, unexpected changes. Looking at the medium to long term, the real drivers of any meaningful shift in the Iraqi dinar's value will be structural reforms. These include reducing reliance on oil exports, expanding the private sector, improving tax collection systems, enhancing transparency, and strengthening the banking infrastructure. International partnerships and compliance with global financial standards also play a role in shaping investor confidence and capital flows. Another key factor is foreign reserves. Iraq's central bank holds significant reserves, which act as a buffer against economic shocks and support the currency. Maintaining and growing these reserves is crucial. A strong reserve position provides the flexibility needed to manage the exchange rate effectively, but it does not automatically translate into an increase in currency value. It's also important to consider inflation. If inflation remains under control, it creates a more favorable environment for currency stability. However, if inflation rises, the central bank may need to take measures that could limit any potential appreciation. This balancing act is central to monetary policy. For Iraqi dinar followers, the takeaway here is that progress is real, but it is gradual. Political developments like government formation are meaningful, but they should be viewed as part of a broader framework rather than a direct trigger for immediate exchange rate changes. There is also a broader lesson in how information is interpreted. Statements suggesting imminent changes often gain traction because they align with expectations or hopes, but responsible analysis requires distinguishing between verified policy actions and speculative commentary. As a financial news platform, our focus is on helping you understand the underlying realities. The Iraqi economy is evolving, and there are positive developments worth noting. Increased oil revenues, efforts to modernize the banking system, and steps toward greater financial transparency are all constructive. At the same time, challenges remain, and reforms take time to implement and produce measurable results. In practical terms, this means that while April, or any specific month, could bring incremental progress, it is unlikely to deliver sudden, transformative changes in the exchange rate without clear supporting economic data and official policy announcements. For those following the Iraqi dinar closely, it's important to stay informed through credible sources, including official statements from the Central Bank of Iraq, government budget releases, and verified economic reports. These provide a more reliable foundation for understanding what is happening and what may come next. It's also worth noting that global economic conditions play a role. Oil prices, international interest rates, and geopolitical factors can all influence Iraq's economic outlook. Currency movements do not occur in isolation. They are part of a complex global system. As we move forward, keep an eye on key indicators such as inflation rates, foreign reserve levels, oil export revenues, and progress on economic reforms. These will offer more meaningful insights than speculative timelines or generalized statements. To summarize, the idea that a completed government formation could create a positive environment for economic progress is valid. However, The leap from political stability to an immediate exchange rate change within a specific month is not supported by the typical processes of monetary policy. Any adjustment to the Iraqi dinar's value would require a combination of strong economic fundamentals, careful planning, and official confirmation. The journey of Iraq's economy is ongoing, and while there may be moments of acceleration, it is ultimately a long-term process shaped by policy, performance, and global conditions. Thank you for watching today's update. If you value responsible, factual, and balanced coverage of Iraqi dinar developments, make sure to subscribe to the channel and stay connected for future updates. And as always, please remember that this content is provided for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice.